We are back at the Leafs practice facility at Ford Performance Center, and Brad Treliving spoke to the media today. And those of you who are not familiar with the beats of how the offseason work, it's a little late for Brad Treliving to be speaking to the media post the Leafs losing to Florida in game number 7, but his daughter had a graduation in Calgary last week, and that's why he couldn't be on the press conference with Keith Pelly. And also, Brendan Shanahan, the president of the Toronto Maple Leafs, was fired last week, which kind of delayed everything and pushed it down the road. But here we are today, back in Etobicoke, to hear Brad Treliving speak. And there's a number of things we got to hit on here, but I'm going to start with the thing that I think is going to give Leafs fans the most hope and the most encouragement heading into this offseason. And that's Brad Treliving recapping what happened against Florida. And he went through like the entire regular season, actually. He started from moving on from Samsonov and bringing installers to training camp to a great regular season for the Leafs where they changed their play style into Craig Berube, and how he's proud they won the Atlantic Division. They had a whole bunch of road wins, more road wins than they've had in some time. And he gets to the playoffs and you beat a very good Ottawa team that he said, and then you get to Florida series where the Leafs lose ultimately. And that's where we're going to start, because in describing the Florida series, Brad Treliving talked about game number 3 in particular, and how game number 3 was the first of the critical moments in the series, and probably the most critical one in the series, because the narrative around how the Florida series has went, it has ended with everybody coming to the conclusion that the series was not lost in game 5 and game 7. The series was lost when the Leafs were up 2-0 in game number 3 and then 3-1 in game number 3. And Brad Treliving said that exact thing. That is the critical moment in the series. And when you are up and you don't take advantage of it and you lose the game where you should be able to hold the lead, that is what sits with him the most coming out of that Florida series. And why I think Leafs fans should be very encouraged by Brad Treliving's words about the Florida series is that that loss, he said, was in the DNA of the team. And obviously when you have these series and time again, you come up short in the critical moments. That means, to quote him, the DNA needs to change. And I think that is what Leafs fans have been asking for, because 9 years of hockey with this core, we've seen that the DNA here and the mix does not mix, and they've been given ample opportunities to try and figure that out and try and show that they are not that DNA. And he said that it leaves scars when that happens, and sometimes it's learning moments and you grow from that, and sometimes they're just scars that stay on you permanently. And I love the fact that there's an acknowledgement that the DNA of the Leafs is stuck in a way that can't get over the hump, and that this time it finally feels like there's going to be some change. And now it's about looking forward to the next weeks and months, and as we get to next season, and finding out if that change will truly come and what sort of change the Leafs will make. And that gets us to the players' side of things, and Brad Treliving, the one in charge of changing the DNA and making that change in the players, which will change then the DNA. And you start with the biggest UFA on the market this year, and that's Mitch Marner, who his contract is expiring on July 1st, and Brad Treliving said it's not a Brad Treliving decision on whether or not Mitch Marner is coming back. It is also up to Mitch Marner, and ultimately it is his decision on whether he wants to sign a contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He was asked directly, have you offered contracts to John Tavares and Mitch Marner? And he said that they have not, and they have not come to that determination yet on whether they will offer them contracts before July 1st. So that is still up in the air, and that's kind of how he answered the Mitch Marner questions, because there were a number of them, and he acknowledged that post losing in game 7, they sat down. It was a part of the exit interviews that he does with all the players, but during their exit interview, he said that it's emotional right now, and not emotional in terms of like, we don't know what we want to do. It's just emotional for everybody, because you lost and we're angry, and nobody wants to make decisions when you're emotional. So he said to Mitch, let's take some time. We're not going to come to any conclusions right now because it is emotional, and that he's going to go to his staff, see what they want to do, and then go back to Mitch and his representatives. And Mitch is going to make his determination on what he wants to do, whether he wants to remain a Toronto Maple Leaf or not. So there's no answers there on what the Leafs are going to do with Mitch Marner. It's just that Brad Treliving hasn't made any, because he doesn't have any answers, right? So we don't have answers because he doesn't have answers. He's going to sit down with the staff, and they're going to make their determination. And ultimately, the determination is on Mitch on whether he wants to stay with the Leafs or not. And then John Tavares is the same case. Brad Treliving spoke about how he's a big fan of JT and everything that he is, but they don't know if they want to bring him back yet, because as he repeated this throughout the press conference, and he said he doesn't want to be dodging questions, but it's just true that the staff hasn't really buckled down, and they don't know for sure 100% what direction they want to go with these players. So that's JT and Auston Matthews. But 100%, they do know Matthew Knies, the guy who's getting Leafs fans a little spooked about a potential offer sheet, which you shouldn't be spooked about at all, because an offer sheet, it may come to Matthew Knies, but in no case in my mind does Matthew Knies sign that offer sheet and put pressure on the Leafs. Brad Treliving said he wants to get that deal done. Ideally, it'd be done right now, but that's not how it works. But that is a deal he's willing to say he wants to get it done. Matthew Knies is a restricted free agent, not an unrestricted free agent, but he needs a new contract, and the Leafs are working with him and his representatives to get that done, which is awesome news. Outside of that, outside of the contract talk, we also had Auston Matthews talk and his injury, because Auston Matthews' injury has been a big discussion since he came out on his end-of-season media avails and revealed that he was dealing with something that he got in training camp, and he dealt with that all season long. You saw him leave to go overseas to try and solve it. You saw him miss a few weeks and a few games. You saw him a little hampered at Four Nations, and the question was asked to Brad Treliving, hey, why did you just shut him down? And Brad said it was because that when he was playing, he felt good. And the only time he wasn't feeling good is when they had to take him out. So it never made sense for them to shut him down completely when he was playing and he felt good. Because if he's available to play and he's sitting on the sideline, he's like, oh, hey, I'm good to go. You're not going to keep him out of the lineup if he's feeling good and ready to play. So that's their reasoning on why they had the topsy-turvy season with Auston Matthews and his injuries. Whether you agree with that or not is your thoughts on the matter and his injury, but Leafs have always shown that they are great with their medical staff, that players go there all the time just to rehab their careers. Look at Yanni Hakanpää, who played 2 games for the Leafs and basically rehabbed all year long. And John Klingberg was another case just like that. And with Auston Matthews, they thought if he's good to go, he's good to go. And the only time he's not good to go is when we bring him out of the lineup. So that's kind of why he never sat out all the second half of the regular season to just get ready for the playoffs, which I'm willing to acknowledge I don't think is going to sit well with a lot of fans, because a lot of people wanted him to get that Mark Stone treatment where he just sits out and then comes back in. But if he was good to go, he was good to go. And other than those notes, I think just moving forward, there's a lot of questions with the Leafs. They have a lot of cap space for the offseason, and it's about now seeing what they do to change the DNA of this core. Brad Treliving, I'll end with this, started his press conference saying that the last week has been emotional because of his great working relationship with Brendan Shanahan, the guy who hired him. So he was obviously very emotional to see him go, but changes needed within the front office. And Keith Pelley is now the guy that Brad Treliving will report to. And he said that nothing will change really with his day-to-day. It'll just be the bigger decisions. Now he'll be telling Keith Pelley about it instead of telling Brendan Shanahan about it. And his relationship with Chief Craig Berube is fantastic, and I think they have a fantastic thing going together and what they're building there in terms of culture and this team moving forward, because I thought the Leafs showed so many great things in the regular season, and now it's about getting that to translate to the playoffs. And he did the thing that some people are making fun of Leafs fans for doing, but he acknowledged that Florida is a really good team. They are the Stanley Cup champions. They're going to the Stanley Cup again for the 3rd year in a row, and the Leafs were very close to beating them. So he thinks this team is a lot closer than the than the fans who want to completely rebuild think the team is at. So I think within the organization, there's faith that they can turn this thing around for next season and get over that hump with a little bit of a change of DNA. That is it for me right now. Let me know what you think in the comments on the Jesse Blake Sports Report YouTube channel of Brad Treliving's end of season media avail. I don't know, next time I'll be back at Ford Performance Center because the Leafs aren't going to be practicing here anytime soon. Probably be training camp, but I'll have plenty more content for you coming up. And don't forget to hit like. Don't forget to hit subscribe. That is it. Thank you for being here. You could have been anywhere in the world. Shows be listening or watching right now, and I appreciate you for that. Good night from Toronto.